Hey everyone, it's Ariel. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be trimming the ends of my hair, mainly just to get rid of like the dead stuff that you can pretty clearly see. I usually give myself some type of trim once every few months just to make sure my hair is staying healthy so I can continue to grow it out without carrying too many dead ends with me. So that is what we're doing today, and along with that I'm also going to be answering a couple of your guys' questions, kind of carrying over from my last haircut Q&A. So I'm really excited to do this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. And yeah, let's just get right into it. So before I do any cutting, I like to just take a quick look at my hair, going through it with the comb and just seeing what I really need to take off, kind of assessing the damage that I have. And then once I have a good idea of what I want to cut and where I want to cut and how much, which in this case today was about 1/2 inch to 1 inch off of the ends, and I didn't really trim my layers or anything. It was mainly just to clean up the ends. So then the next step is to part and section my hair. So I'm parting my hair where I normally would part it and just making sure it's a nice clean part. And then I can go in, and I'm going at about the top of my head. So a trick to find the very top of your head, which is called the apex, is to take a comb and kind of rock it back and forth at the top of your head, and you'll find the point where it kind of balances. I hope that makes sense. And then I'm just connecting where my part ends to that point at the top of my head. And then from there, I'm going to connect that point to the top of my ear. And I do try to keep these lines somewhat straight, but don't worry if they're not perfect. If you are going to try this at home, as long as they're somewhat straight and lined up, it will all balance out at the end. So once I have those couple of parts in place, then I'm just grabbing a couple of my favorite croc clips to secure the front pieces of hair away from the back for now. So now you can see I have the front sectioned away from the back, and I always start cutting in the back. So for now, the front pieces can just stay there where they are. And I always do this, but it's better to kind of wrap them up and then clip them. That way the ends of those front pieces won't get in your way while you're trying to cut the back. Okay, so now it's time to take the first section of hair, which I'm taking around the middle of my ear at the back of my head. And I just section with my fingers usually. It's just easier, and it really doesn't have to be perfect. So that's just what works for me. Clipping the rest of that hair away for now. And now it's time to grab the scissors. And just want to mention, I mention this in every haircut tutorial, but it's so important to make sure you are using good scissors. So these ones are nice and sharp, professional shears, and I know that they aren't going to damage my hair more than help it. So very important to make sure you have good scissors if you are going to do this at home. And now I'm going to take my first cut, and I just want to say there is something so satisfying about that first cut. Just seeing all that dead hair come off, and then all of a sudden you have a blunt, clean end. It's just the best feeling. But anyway, moving on. I feel like this is a good time to answer this question by Monine the Marved. I hope I pronounced that right. They asked, how can we evaluate where to cut? Salons often show pictures where there's a line, where to cut it. How can we determine where the damage begins? And if we aren't prepared to cut it all, how can we make a plan or a schedule to get it off, maybe without losing length? Hope that question makes sense. Yes, it does make sense. So if we go back to this clip from the beginning for a second, you can see pretty clearly that there is a line where if I cut at that line, my hair would fall kind of right around where my necklace is sitting. So technically I could cut off a lot more hair than what I'm cutting off today, but I am trying to grow my hair and I don't want to lose too much length, kind of like you were saying in your question. So what I try to do is look for a spot a little bit lower down where I can cut off 1/2 inch or 1 inch of hair and still get a more blunt, clean look without cutting off a ton of inches and losing all that length. So you don't always have to cut off all of your damage right away. And I would say just try to get your hair cut or cut it every 6 to 8 weeks. And if you do that regularly, you will get rid of your damage without losing all of your length and all of the progress that you've made to grow it out. So I hope that answers your question. So now the first section of hair has been cut, but I also want to make sure that the back is staying nice and even too. So I like to pull it straight out from the back of my head and then kind of twist it forward and just trim off any hair that's sticking out at the middle, because I am over directing my hair when I pull it to the front, and that can create a little bit of like an awkward length at the back of your head. So this is a good way to just make sure it's staying even throughout the whole haircut, if that makes sense. So now I just pulled down another small section of hair, and I'm just going to repeat what I just did on the first section. And here is where you can see the guide from the last section that I just cut. And excuse me while I have a snack break. So anyway, I'm using my guide underneath to cut this next section of hair, and you should take small enough sections so that you can see that guide underneath. If you take a section too big, you won't be able to see this, so just be aware of that. But I'm just continuing to cut, getting those ends nice and clean, and I'm going to repeat that same thing on the other side. And this next section of hair really didn't have much to come off. I think my left side like grows faster or something, which is normal by the way. But anyway, I'm going to answer this next question, which is from Raindrops. They said, as I age, my hair has gotten a lot thinner. My question is, will a shorter cut make my hair look fuller? I've been cutting my own hair for years and always loved the outcome. I've never tried a bob though. I cut my hair the other day, took about 2 inches, and now it's shoulder length. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the compliments. And to answer your question, yes, I would say almost always your hair will look fuller with a shorter cut. Even a shoulder length cut is going to make your hair look fuller than like even what my hair is. I think it does depend on your hair type as well, but usually a shorter cut is always going to make your hair look fuller and thicker, and a bob is definitely the go-to. Although if you do cut your hair yourself, a bob can be very difficult to do depending on how short of a bob you're thinking, but I would maybe consider like going to get somebody to cut it for you, at least initially, and that way you have kind of like a guideline to go off of for the next few cuts. But definitely go for a bob. I say try it. There's nothing wrong with trying it. If you don't like it, you can just grow it back. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. So at this point, I'm pretty close to being done with the haircut. The back of my head is all trimmed, and now I'm just going in and freehanding any pieces that are kind of like sticking out or just look like they need to be trimmed off. And then I'm just taking down the front clips, and it's time to trim the sides of my hair. And another tip that I've mentioned before in my other videos is to always start on the side with less hair. That way, if you make a mistake, you have more hair on the other side to work with. Whereas if you do it vice versa, you might get to the other side and be like, oh shoot, I don't have enough hair to match to the other side now. So hopefully that makes sense. I learned that years ago in a hairstyling class, and it just really stuck with me. I think it's so helpful. But yeah, I'm just continuing on with the haircut, just still using the guide now from the back of my head to match the sides of my hair too, and just continuing to cut off and clean up those dead ends. And I did also want to answer this comment because to be honest with you, I keep forgetting to add in the time that it took me to cut my hair. I seriously have forgotten it like 2 or 3 times now. And I do still want to film a live haircut video for you guys at some point, but to answer this comment or question for now, it usually takes me about 20 minutes, I would say minimum. Like when I'm doing a cut like this where I'm just cleaning up the ends, it's like really not a lot of hair coming off. I'm not really reshaping anything or anything like that. 20 minutes, like really quick. But if I'm doing like a full haircut where I'm trimming my bangs, my layers, my ends, kind of doing a full proper haircut, it can take me much longer. Like I would say maybe 30 to 45 minutes. But yeah, it just kind of depends what I'm doing. But I would say it always does fall within like the 20 to 45 minute range. So hopefully that answers that question for now at least. But yeah guys, this is pretty much the finished look. I finished cutting all of my ends. It looks so much better and feels so much better. I say it every time, but it's crazy to me how even just the tiniest trim can make such a big difference. So my hair still doesn't look perfect. I do still have some ends that probably could come off, but again, I am trying to grow my hair, and this is just a way to clean up the ends, get them back to healthy without losing too much length. And I really think that everybody should be trimming their ends regularly. Like even if you are trying to grow your hair or you're trying not to lose too much length, like it's so important to just have healthy ends, because if you don't trim off the dead stuff as it's growing, it can potentially split further up your hair and cause the rest of your hair to get damaged, and you'll just end up in this cycle of damaged ends. And also, who wants long hair if it's not even healthy? You know what I mean? So that's the end of the video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a comment down below, and also subscribe if you're not already. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.